The diplomatic hall of the Galactic Peace Summit was enormous. Ships from 40 different species had docked at the space station. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows facing the main stage. The air systems worked hard to provide the right atmosphere for each species. Zhang Wei straightened his formal Earth diplomatic uniform. He had been preparing for this summit for months. As Earth's senior ambassador to the Galactic Council, he knew this meeting was crucial. The topic was supposed to be trade agreements between different star systems, but Zhang sensed something else would come up today. The Zentari ambassador floated to the center of the room. Their crystalline body caught the light from the overhead panels. The Zentari were known for their direct questions and logical thinking. They had never experienced war on their peaceful homeworld. Today, their representatives seemed troubled. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, the Zentari began, their voice resonating like wind chimes. Before we discuss trade routes, I must address something that concerns many of us. We have observed human behavior for decades now. There is something we do not understand about your species. Zhang felt other delegates turn to look at him. He kept his face calm, but his mind raced. What aspect of humanity would they question today? Earth had worked hard to prove itself as a peaceful member of the galactic community. The Zentari continued, humans claim to value peace. You speak of cooperation and harmony. Yet your species seems obsessed with war. Your museums display weapons. Your entertainment focuses on battles. Your history books detail every conflict. Why are humans so fascinated by war? Silence fell over the assembly hall. Representatives from peaceful species shifted uncomfortably. The Altarians waved their tentacles slowly, a sign of concern. The Voidwalkers dimmed their energy fields. Even the usually cheerful Proximans looked worried. Zhang stood up slowly. He had expected this question might arise someday. Other species found it hard to understand why humans preserve memories of their violent past. They wondered why Earth's libraries contained thousands of books about battles and conflicts. They questioned why human children played games that simulated combat. Thank you for your directness, Ambassador, Zhang said, his voice carrying across the hall. This is indeed an important question, one that deserves a complete answer. May I share some personal history to help explain? The Zentari's crystalline form pulsed with interest. Please proceed, Ambassador Zhang. We seek understanding, not judgment. Zhang walked to the center of the room. He looked at the diverse gathering of alien species. Some had evolved on planets where cooperation was natural. Others came from worlds without predators. Many had achieved space travel without ever experiencing global conflict. How could he explain humanity's complex relationship with its own violent nature? Let me tell you about my grandfather, Zhang began. He lived through one of Earth's most terrible wars. Millions died. Cities burned. Entire nations almost ceased to exist. When I was a child, I found a box in his home. It contained photographs from that war. Images of destroyed buildings. Pictures of soldiers who never came home. I asked him why he kept such sad memories. The assembly listened intently. Several species leaned forward, their translation devices working to convey not just words but emotional meaning. Zhang noticed the empathic collective members glowing softly, picking up the emotions in his voice. My grandfather's answer confused me at first, Zhang continued. He said he kept those photos not because he liked war, but because he hated it. He wanted to remember how terrible it was. He wanted his children and grandchildren to understand the cost of conflict. That box of photos was not a celebration. It was a warning. The Altarian representative raised 3 of its 8 tentacles, requesting permission to speak. But Ambassador Zhang, this seems contradictory. If humans hate war, why fill your culture with reminders of it? Zhang nodded. That is the heart of your question. To answer it fully, I need to explain how humans learn from their mistakes. We are not naturally peaceful like some species here. We evolved on a dangerous world. We competed for resources. We formed tribes that fought other tribes. Violence is part of our evolutionary history. He paused, Letting that sink in, several species exchanged worried glances. The security detail from the warrior caste of Draxus stood a bit straighter, perhaps recognizing something familiar in humanity's nature. "But here is what makes humans unique," Zhang said, his voice growing stronger. "We recognize our capacity for destruction, and we chose to study it, not to celebrate it, but to understand it. Every war memorial on Earth, every museum displaying ancient weapons, every book about historical battles, they all serve the same purpose. They remind us of what we are capable of, so we can choose to be better." The Zentari ambassador's form flickered with what Zhang recognized as contemplation. This conversation would continue, but already he could see understanding beginning to dawn in the faces around him. The assembly hall remained quiet as Zhang continued his explanation. He could see confusion on many alien faces. The Void Walkers especially seemed puzzled. Their species had evolved in the empty spaces between stars. They had never known conflict or competition. "My grandfather took me to a war memorial when I was 12 years old," Zhang said. "It was a wall made of black stone. Thousands of names were carved into it. Each name was someone who died in war. My grandfather searched until he found one specific name. He touched it gently and said, 'This was my best friend. He died when he was 19 years old.'" Jean walked slowly across the stage as he spoke. His diplomatic training helped him rid the room. Some species were beginning to understand. Others still looked troubled. The Proximan delegates whispered among themselves in their high-pitched language. "I asked my grandfather why we needed such a sad place. Why not forget the bad memories and move forward? He looked at me with tears in his eyes. He said something I never forgot. 'We study war so you never have to live it.' Those words changed how I understood human nature." The Altarian ambassador raised several tentacles again. "Ambassador Zhang, your story is touching, but it does not explain why human entertainment is filled with war. Your movies show battles. Your games simulate combat. Your books describe conflicts in great detail. How is this different from glorifying violence?" Zhang expected this question. He pulled up a holographic display showing various human media. "You make an excellent point, Ambassador. Let us examine what these stories actually contain. Yes, they show conflict. But what are they really about? They tell stories of sacrifice. They show the cost of violence. They explore how war changes people. They are not celebrations of battle. They are cautionary tales." The display showed scenes from famous human war films. Notice how our stories focus on the people affected by war, the soldiers who suffer, the families torn apart, the communities destroyed. Even our action movies often show the hero trying to avoid violence until they have no choice. The message is always the same. War should be the last option, never the first. A young delegate from the Harmony Collective spoke up. "But why create these stories at all? Our species tells tales of cooperation and building. We sing songs about creating beautiful things together. Why do humans choose such dark subjects for entertainment?" Zhang smiled sadly. "Because humans must constantly remind themselves of the consequences of conflict. Your species evolved to cooperate naturally. We did not. We must work harder to maintain peace. These stories serve as practice runs for our minds. They let us experience conflict safely. They teach us to recognize the signs of growing violence. They help us understand how wars begin so we can prevent them." The security chief from Draxus nodded slowly. His species understood conflict, though they had learned to channel it into strict codes of honor. So humans use fiction to train against their own violent impulses, like warriors practicing with blunt weapons. "Exactly," Zhang confirmed. "Every war game a human child plays teaches them that conflict has consequences. Every war movie shows that violence costs more than it gains. Every book about historical battles reminds us of the waste and tragedy. We surround ourselves with these reminders because we know our nature. We must never forget what we are capable of becoming." The Zentari ambassador pulsed with a new color pattern. John recognized it, as deep thought. You are saying that human fascination with war is actually a defense mechanism. You study it to prevent it. Precisely, Zhang said. Think of it like a vaccine. Doctors introduce a weak form of a disease to help the body fight the real thing. Humans expose themselves to fictional conflict to build immunity against actual war. We study our failures to avoid repeating them. We remember our worst moments to inspire our best behavior. He showed an image of human peacekeepers working across the galaxy. This fascination with war has made us valuable to the Galactic Council because we understand conflict deeply. We can see it developing. We know the warning signs. We recognize the patterns that lead to violence. We can help prevent wars because we have studied them so thoroughly. The assembly began to murmur with interest. Several species nodded or displayed their equivalent gestures of understanding. Zhang could feel the mood in the room shifting from concern to curiosity. Human children learn about the world wars in school, Zhang continued, not to glorify them, but to understand their horror. We visit battlefields turned into parks. We read diary entries from soldiers. We watch documentaries about civilians who suffered. All of this serves one purpose: to make war so real and terrible in our minds that we work harder for peace. The discussion continued as more delegates raised questions. Zhang noticed that even species who rarely spoke at these gatherings were now participating. The topic had clearly struck a nerve across the galaxy. An elderly representative from the Crystal Gardens stood up. Their species was known for creating beauty and harmony. They had turned entire star systems into artistic displays. Ambassador Zhang, I find your explanation logical, yet troubling. If humans must constantly remind themselves not to be violent, does this mean you are always in danger of returning to war? Zhang considered his answer carefully. This was a delicate point. In a way, yes. Humans are not naturally peaceful like many species here. We must choose peace every day. We must work for it constantly. This is why we can never forget what war costs. The moment we stop remembering, we risk falling back into old patterns. He pulled up new images on the holographic display. They showed various human peace organizations. Look at how many groups on Earth work to prevent conflict. We have institutes that study the causes of war. We have organizations that monitor rising tensions. We have educators who teach conflict resolution. All of this exists because we know our own nature. We guard against ourselves. The Proximan youth delegate raised her hand. She was new to these sessions and seemed nervous. My grandmother told me that humans once helped our colony ship when pirates attacked. The human captain knew exactly how the pirates would behave. How did they know this? Zhang smiled at the young delegate. Because we have studied conflict for thousands of years, we understand the psychology of violence. We know how aggressors think. We recognize the tactics they use. This knowledge lets us counter threats effectively. Your grandmother's ship was saved because humans understood the pirate mindset. The Zentari ambassador floated higher, a sign of increased interest. So you are saying that humanity's violent past has become a tool for peace. You use your understanding of war to prevent it. Exactly, Zhang confirmed. Let me give you another example. Earth has a city called Hiroshima. It was destroyed by a nuclear weapon many years ago. Today, the ruins are preserved as a peace memorial. Millions visit every year. They see the melted buildings. They read the survivor stories. They understand what nuclear war really means. This knowledge makes them work harder for peace. The security chief from Draxus interrupted. But surely some humans glorify war. We have observed your military ceremonies. Your soldiers receive medals. Your history honors warriors. How is this different from celebrating violence? Zhang nodded thoughtfully. You raise an important distinction. Yes, we honor those who served in wars. But not because we love war. We honor their sacrifice. We recognize that they did terrible things so others could live in peace. Our medals and ceremonies remind us of the price they paid. They are not celebrations of killing. They are acknowledgments of loss. He showed images of military cemeteries on Earth, row after row of white headstones stretched into the distance. These are not monuments to victory. They are reminders of cost. Each grave represents a life cut short, a family broken, a future lost. We honor the dead to remind the living that war is always a tragedy, even when necessary. The Harmony Collective delegate sang a soft note of understanding. I begin to see. Your rituals of remembrance are actually rituals of warning. You honor the past to protect the future. Yes, Zhang said warmly. You understand perfectly. Every war memorial on Earth carries the same message. Never forget. Never again. We surround ourselves with these reminders because we know how easy it is to slide into conflict. We have seen it happen too many times. The Altarian ambassador waved tentacles thoughtfully. This explains why human diplomats are so effective at preventing wars. You see the early warning signs that other species miss. You understand the escalation patterns. You know when words are failing and violence is approaching. John felt pride in his species. We have become the galaxy's early warning system for conflict. Our dark history has given us unique skills. We can smell war coming before it arrives. We know the rhetoric that leads to violence. We recognize the fear that drives aggression. This knowledge helps us intervene before conflicts explode. He paused to let his words sink in. The assembled delegates were processing this new understanding of humanity. Some looked relieved. Others appeared thoughtful. A few still seemed concerned, but their worry had shifted from fear to sympathy. Think of us as reformed addicts, Zhang suggested. We know the temptation of violence because we have lived it. We understand its appeal because we have felt it. But we also know its true cost because we have paid it. This makes us valuable allies in maintaining galactic peace. We guard against the darkness because we have seen where it leads. The young Proximan delegate spoke again. So humans are like antibodies against war. You have experienced the disease and now help protect others from it. Zhang smiled at her analogy. That is a perfect comparison. We are indeed antibodies. Our immunity came at a terrible price, but now we can help other species avoid the same suffering. Our fascination with war is really a fascination with preventing it. The afternoon session began with the Void Walker ambassador gliding forward. Their energy form shimmered with curiosity. Ambassador Zhang, we have been discussing your words during the break. My species finds this concept difficult to grasp. We evolved in the emptiness between stars. We have never known competition or conflict. How can we understand something so foreign to our nature? Zhang appreciated the honest question. You do not need to understand war to benefit from our knowledge. Think of it this way. You would not need to experience poison to trust a doctor who warns against it. Humans have tasted that poison. We can help others avoid it without them needing to experience it themselves. A murmur of understanding rippled through the delegates. Zhang continued. In fact, species like yours are precisely why humans study war so intensely. We want to protect peaceful civilizations from learning these lessons the hard way. Your innocence is precious. Our knowledge helps preserve it. The empathic collective representative glowed with shifting colors. We sense great sadness in you when you speak of war, yet also determination. This emotional complexity is fascinating. How do humans balance these feelings? Zhang took a deep breath. It is not easy. Every human carries this duality. We mourn our violent past while using its lessons to build a better future. We feel shame about our history but pride in overcoming it. This emotional complexity drives us to work harder for peace. We know how far we have come and how far we could fall. The Zentari ambassador crystallized into a new pattern. Your species seems to view itself as both patient and doctor. You diagnose your own illness while treating it. This level of self-awareness is remarkable. Thank you, John replied. But this awareness came at great cost. Billions died before humans learned these lessons. Entire civilizations fell before we understood the patterns of conflict. We study these failures obsessively because we cannot afford to repeat them. He displayed a timeline of human history. Look at our past. Each war taught us something. After chemical weapons killed millions, we banned them. After nuclear bombs destroyed cities, we created treaties to limit them. After global wars nearly ended our species, we formed international bodies to prevent them. Each disaster became a lesson. Each lesson became a rule. Each rule helps prevent the next disaster. The Crystal Gardens delegate chimed in melodiously. So your museums and memorials are really schools. They teach through example rather than theory. Precisely, John confirmed. A child who visits a war museum learns more than facts. They see actual weapons that ended lives. They read letters from soldiers who never returned home. They watch footage of cities being destroyed. These visceral experiences create deeper understanding than any lecture could provide. The young Proximan raised her hand again. But does this not traumatize your children? Exposing them to such darkness seems cruel. Zhang shook his head gently. We introduce these concepts gradually and age-appropriately. Young children learn about cooperation and conflict resolution. Teenagers study historical events and their causes. Adults grapple with the complex realities of warfare. Each stage builds understanding without overwhelming the learner. He showed images of human education programs. We also balance dark history with stories of peace. Children learn about war heroes, yes, but also peace activists. They study battles, but also treaties. They understand destruction, but also reconstruction. This balance helps them process difficult truths while maintaining hope. The Drax's security chief stood at attention. Your military academies interest us. Do they not train warriors? How does this fit with your peace philosophy? An excellent question, Zhang acknowledged. Yes, we train warriors, but modern human military education focuses as much on preventing conflict as fighting it. Our officers study history, psychology, diplomacy, and ethics. They learn to exhaust every option before combat. They understand that the best victory is avoiding battle entirely. The Altarian ambassador undulated thoughtfully. So even your warriors are philosophers. They carry weapons but prefer words. Zhang smiled. Exactly. Our military doctrine emphasizes minimal force. Soldiers train to protect civilians. Officers learn to build peace after conflict ends. The goal is always to return to stability as quickly as possible. War is seen as a temporary failure of diplomacy, not a permanent state. The Harmony Collective began humming in unison, their way of showing deep thought. Their representative spoke for the group. We begin to understand. Humans are not warlike by choice, but by inheritance. You struggle against your nature rather than embracing it. This struggle has made you wise about conflict. That is perhaps the best summary I have heard, Zhang said gratefully. We are not proud of our violent heritage, but we have learned to transform it into something useful. Our darkness has become a lighthouse, warning others away from the rocks we struck. The session was progressing better than Zhang had hoped. These peaceful species were beginning to see humanity not as a threat, but as a valuable ally. Their bloody history was becoming understood as a resource for galactic peace rather than a reason for fear. Consider this, Zhang added. Every human diplomat, teacher, and peacekeeper carries thousands of years of conflict knowledge. We can recognize warning signs that other species might miss. We understand escalation patterns you have never seen. We know how misunderstandings become conflicts and conflicts become wars. This knowledge helps us prevent problems before they start. The assembly was leaning forward now, fully engaged in the discussion. Zhang could see understanding dawning on faces across the room. The fear and suspicion from earlier had transformed into curiosity and even appreciation. The conference room fell silent as a new figure entered the discussion. The elder from the ancient collective moved slowly to the speaking area. This species had achieved space travel before humans discovered fire. Their wisdom was respected throughout the galaxy. Ambassador Zhang, the elder began, its voice like rustling leaves. We have observed humanity since you first reached the stars. Your explanation today fills gaps in our understanding. But one question remains. If humans truly hate war, why do your entertainment industries profit from it? Your most successful films show violence. Your best-selling games simulate combat. Is this not exploitation of tragedy? Zhang had been waiting for this deeper question. He knew it would come eventually. Elder, you touch on something important. Yes, our entertainment industries do use war as content, but we must examine why these stories resonate with humans and what purpose they serve. He changed the holographic display to show various human entertainment. Notice the patterns in our most popular war stories. The heroes always try to avoid violence first. They show mercy to enemies. They suffer from their actions. The message is consistent. War has consequences. Violence leaves scars. Peace is always preferable. The Voidwalker drifted closer. But surely some humans enjoy these violent stories for the wrong reasons. Do they not feed aggressive tendencies rather than suppress them? Some do, Zhang admitted honestly. We are not perfect. Some humans do glorify violence, but our society works hard to counter this. We have rating systems to protect young minds. We have discussions about media influence. We constantly debate the line between education and exploitation. The Crystal Gardens representative sang a questioning note. How do you distinguish between helpful and harmful war content? What makes one story educational and another dangerous? Zhang pulled up examples on the display. Educational content shows consequences. It humanizes all sides of conflict. It explores the trauma of veterans. It depicts the suffering of civilians. Harmful content glorifies violence without context. It makes war seem easy or fun. It ignores consequences. Most human societies strictly regulate such content. The young Proximan delegate raised her hand eagerly. My favorite human movie is about soldiers who become friends with their enemies after a war ends. Is this the kind of story you mean? Perfect example, Zhang said warmly. That film shows the humanity on both sides of conflict. It demonstrates that enemies are just people with different perspectives. It celebrates peace over victory. These stories help humans process their violent history in healthy ways. The empathic collective pulsed with concern. We sense that many humans still struggle with violent impulses. How does your society help these individuals? Zhang's expression grew serious. You are right. Some humans do struggle more than others. We have extensive support systems. Veterans receive counseling. People with violent tendencies get therapy. We study the psychology of aggression to help those who need it. This is another way we use our knowledge of conflict. We identify and help those at risk. The Drax's security chief interjected. Your approach seems soft. On our world, we channel aggression into strict honor codes. Why not simply discipline those with violent tendencies? We tried that for centuries, Zhang replied. Punishment alone does not change human nature. Understanding works better than suppression. When people understand why they feel aggressive, they can learn to control it. When they see the real consequences of violence, they choose differently. Education beats discipline every time. He showed statistics on human violence rates. Look at our progress. Global conflicts have decreased steadily. Murder rates drop as education improves. Domestic violence falls when people learn better communication. Knowledge truly is power over our darker impulses. The Zentari ambassador flickered thoughtfully. So humans use every tool available to combat their violent nature. Education, entertainment, therapy, remembrance. You attack the problem from all angles. Exactly, Zhang confirmed. We cannot change our evolutionary history, but we can choose our future. Every war story told responsibly helps. Every memorial visited thoughtfully teaches. Every veteran's testimony warns. Every peace treaty signed proves progress is possible. The Harmony Collective hummed in appreciation. Your species has turned weakness into strength. You use your flaws as teaching tools. This is wisdom we did not expect from such a young spacefaring race. Zhang felt pride tempered with humility. We had no choice but to learn quickly. Our weapons grew too powerful for our wisdom. We faced extinction if we did not change. That pressure created rapid evolution, not in our bodies, but in our minds and societies. The ancient collective elder swayed gently. Now we understand why humans make such effective peacekeepers. You know the demon intimately. You can see its approach in others because you battle it in yourselves. Your vigilance comes from experience, not theory. Yes, Zhang agreed. We are reformed warriors serving as guardians. We know every trick violence uses to justify itself. We recognize every excuse aggression makes. We understand every fear that leads to conflict. This knowledge makes us valuable allies for peaceful species. The session had reached a crucial understanding. John could see it in the faces around him. These peaceful civilizations were beginning to see humanity's dark past as a gift to the galaxy's future. Their fascination with war was revealed as a tool for peace. The afternoon light from the artificial star shifted as the discussion deepened. John noticed several delegates conferring with their homeworlds through quantum communicators. This conversation was clearly affecting how many species viewed humanity. The representative from the Aquatic Federation rippled forward. Their species lived in vast ocean worlds and had developed a complex civilization without ever experiencing land-based warfare. Ambassador Zhang, we have a specific concern. Your planet's oceans have seen terrible battles. Ships sunk with thousands aboard. Submarines hunting each other in the depths. Why did humans bring war even into the water? Zhang sighed deeply. This was one of humanity's darker chapters. You highlight one of our species' most troubling traits. When humans commit to conflict, we use every possible avenue. Land, sea, air, and now space. No environment was sacred when survival was at stake. But these maritime wars taught us valuable lessons too. He displayed images of naval battles throughout history. Ocean warfare showed us how technology amplifies destruction. One torpedo could sink a ship with hundreds of souls. One submarine could terrorize entire shipping lanes. These lessons helped us understand why conflict must be limited, why rules of war became necessary. The aquatic delegate's coloring shifted to show distress. But the oceans are meant for life and exploration. How could your species corrupt such beautiful spaces with violence? Because we were desperate and foolish, Zhang answered honestly. When nations fought for survival, they used every advantage. The oceans became highways for war because they were highways for trade. We learned that no place remains peaceful if people bring conflict to it. This is why humans now work so hard to keep violence contained. The elder from the ancient collective rustled again. You speak of rules for war. This concept puzzles us. How can there be rules for something inherently chaotic? Zhang brightened slightly. This was an important point. Humans discovered that even in war, some lines should not be crossed. We created laws about treating prisoners humanely. We banned weapons that cause unnecessary suffering. We protected medical personnel and civilians. These rules showed us that even in our darkest moments, we could choose mercy. The Zentari ambassador crystallized into an interested pattern. So humans limited their own violence through agreement. You chose restraint even when fighting for survival. Eventually, yes, John confirmed. It took many disasters to learn this wisdom. After seeing poison gas kill thousands, we banned chemical weapons. After cities burned from the air, we created rules about targeting civilians. Each atrocity taught us where boundaries needed to exist. The young Proximan delegate spoke up again. My teacher says humans invented the concept of war crimes, that you judge your own warriors for excessive violence. Is this true? Zhang nodded solemnly. Yes, we hold our own soldiers accountable. After our worst wars, we created international courts. We tried military leaders who ordered atrocities. We imprisoned soldiers who killed civilians. This was revolutionary. The victors judging themselves as harshly as the defeated. It showed that justice mattered more than victory. The empathic collective glowed with complex emotions. We sense great shame in your species about these war crimes, yet also pride in overcoming them. How do humans process such contradictory feelings? With difficulty, Zhang admitted. Every human carries this burden. We are ashamed of what our ancestors did, but we are proud of learning from their mistakes. We honor the victims by ensuring their suffering was not meaningless. Their deaths became the foundation for laws that protect others. The security chief from Draxus stood straighter. These war crime trials interest us greatly. Warriors judging warriors seems dangerous. How do you prevent bias? How do you ensure justice? Zhang smiled slightly. It was not easy to develop. We created international courts with judges from many nations. We established clear laws about acceptable conduct. We documented evidence carefully. Most importantly, we agreed that no one was above these laws. Even victorious generals could be tried for crimes. He showed images of historical war crime trials. These proceedings were painful but necessary. They forced humanity to confront its worst actions. They established that following orders was not an excuse for atrocity. They proved that individual humans always had a choice, even in war. The Crystal Gardens delegate chimed musically. So every human soldier carries moral responsibility. They cannot simply blame their leaders. Correct, Zhang said. This was a crucial development. It made every human accountable for their actions. Soldiers learned to question illegal orders. Officers learned to consider consequences. Military culture shifted from blind obedience to ethical thinking. This change helped prevent many atrocities. The Voidwalker drifted in thought. Your species seems to have legislated against its own nature. You created external rules to control internal impulses. Fascinating adaptation. Zhang felt energized by their understanding. Yes, we built scaffolding around our darker impulses. Laws, treaties, institutions, courts. All designed to prevent us from falling back into barbarism. We knew we could not trust our nature, so we created systems to contain it. The discussion was revealing how deeply humans had thought about their capacity for violence. Each rule, law, and institution represented hard-won wisdom from historical tragedy. The alien delegates were beginning to appreciate the complexity of humanity's relationship with its own nature. The evening session brought unexpected developments. A figure that rarely attended these gatherings entered the hall. The Hive Queen of Zorax moved with deliberate grace. Her species existed as a collective consciousness, thousands of minds thinking as one. They had achieved perfect internal harmony, but struggled to understand individual-based conflicts. Ambassador Zhang. The Hive Queen spoke with many voices in unison. We have monitored this discussion through our drones. Your explanation of human nature disturbs and intrigues us. How does a species of individuals control violence when each mind thinks separately? Our unity prevents internal conflict. Your chaos seems to invite it. Zhang bowed respectfully to the Hive Queen. This was a rare opportunity. Your Majesty, you raised the fundamental challenge of human existence. Yes, our individual nature creates conflict. Different minds want different things. But this also creates our strength. Individual humans can choose peace even when groups choose war. One person can stop a massacre. One voice can prevent a conflict. The Queen's compound eyes focused intently. Explain this paradox. How can individuality be both weakness and strength? Zhang gathered his thoughts carefully. During our worst war, individual humans hid refugees from genocide. Single soldiers refused to follow evil orders. One diplomat prevented nuclear launch through personal intervention. Individuals can resist mob mentality. They can say no when everyone says yes. This saved humanity many times. The Zentari ambassador added its perspective. So human chaos contains its own solution. Fascinating biological balance. Precisely, Zhang continued. Our greatest atrocities happened when humans stopped thinking individually, when they followed groups blindly. Our salvation came from those who stood alone against the crowd. This is why we now teach critical thinking above all. Question authority. Challenge group decisions. Think for yourself. The Voidwalker shimmered with comprehension. You weaponized independent thought against collective violence. Zhang smiled at the phrasing. In a way, yes. We learned that diverse opinions prevent extreme actions. When everyone agrees too quickly, danger follows. Debate slows decisions but improves them. Arguments prevent atrocities. Discord can create peace. The young Proximan delegate raised her hand excitedly. Is this why human governments are so complicated? You build disagreement into your systems. Exactly right, Zhang confirmed. We separate powers deliberately. Executive, legislative, judicial branches check each other. No single person or group can declare war easily. Multiple approvals are required. Debate is mandated. This frustrates quick action, but prevents terrible mistakes. The Hive Queen's numerous voices harmonized. This seems inefficient. Our collective decides instantly. Yet you have survived where other chaotic species destroy themselves. Perhaps inefficiency has hidden wisdom. Zhang nodded appreciatively. Human democracy is messy and slow, but it forces us to convince others before acting. It requires building consensus. It makes war harder to start and easier to stop. Every delay is an opportunity for peace. Every debate is a chance for wisdom to prevail. The ancient collective elder swayed thoughtfully. Your species discovered that speed kills but deliberation saves. Remarkable evolution of governance. We paid dearly for that knowledge, Zhang replied. Dictators led us into devastating wars. Mob rule created genocides. Pure democracy produced chaos. We needed balance, strong enough to act, but slow enough to think. Unified enough to defend, but diverse enough to question. The Aquatic Federation representative rippled with interest. Your federal systems mirror ocean currents, multiple forces creating dynamic balance. No single current dominates. All contribute to the whole. Zhang appreciated the metaphor. Yes, like ocean currents or weather systems. Complex interactions creating stability through controlled chaos. Human society works similarly. We harness our conflicting nature rather than suppressing it. We use opposition as a tool for balance. The Crystal Gardens delegate sang softly. So human fascination with war extends to preventing it through governance. You designed your societies as weapons against your own violence. Every human institution reflects this purpose, Zhang confirmed. Our schools teach debate to prevent dogma. Our media provides multiple viewpoints to prevent propaganda. Our courts protect minority opinions from majority oppression. All these systems exist because we know how dangerous unified thinking can be. The security chief from Draxus observed, your warriors must find this frustrating. Military requires unity of command. How do you balance military efficiency with democratic caution? Zhang acknowledged the tension. It is our greatest challenge. Military needs quick decisions, but democracy demands slow deliberation. We solve this through civilian control of military forces. Generals advise, but elected leaders decide. War requires public support. Soldiers swear oaths to constitutions, not commanders. This prevents military coups while maintaining readiness. The empathic collective pulsed with understanding. Each system you described carries emotional weight. Laws written in blood. Institutions built from tragedy. Your entire civilization is a monument to lessons learned through suffering. That is perhaps the truest description, Zhang said quietly. Every human law represents someone's death. Every institution marks a failure to prevent tragedy. We build our future from the ashes of our past. This is why we cannot forget our history. These structures would crumble without the memories that created them. The gathered delegates absorbed this perspective. Humanity's complex governance systems suddenly made sense. Their inefficiencies were features, not flaws. Their complications were shields against human nature itself. As the summit entered its final phase, the discussion took on new urgency. The representative from the temporal observers floated forward. This species existed partially outside normal time flow and could see potential futures branching from present decisions. Ambassador Zhang, the temporal observer, spoke with otherworldly clarity. We see probability streams surrounding humanity. Most lead to peace, but some still branch toward conflict. How do humans navigate these dangerous possibilities? What keeps you on peaceful paths when violent options remain? Zhang felt the weight of this question. The temporal observers rarely shared their visions. We stay vigilant through constant education. Every human generation must learn these lessons anew. Children do not inherit their parents' wisdom automatically. Each must understand why peace matters. Each must choose it personally. He displayed educational programs from Earth. Look at how we teach history. Not as boring facts, but as living mornings. Students visit memorials. They read soldier diaries. They interview war survivors. They simulate diplomatic negotiations. We make the past immediate and personal. The Hive Queen interjected with multiple voices. But surely some humans resist these lessons. What of those who romanticize your violent past? They exist, Zhang admitted. Every generation produces some who glorify war, who think violence is glorious, who believe conflict strengthens societies. We counter them through veteran testimony. No one who survived real war romanticizes it. Their stories carry more weight than any propaganda. The young Proximan delegate asked, "Do human soldiers struggle with this? They train for war, but work for peace. That seems contradictory." Zhang's expression softened. Many do struggle. We call it moral injury when soldiers must do violent things for peaceful ends. They carry psychological wounds from necessary actions. This is why veteran support is crucial. We help them process their experiences. We honor their sacrifice while acknowledging their trauma. The Voidwalker flickered with curiosity. How do you maintain military readiness without creating warriors who want war? Through careful psychological screening and training, Zhang explained. Modern human militaries select for protectors, not aggressors. Soldiers train to defend, not conquer. Military education emphasizes minimum necessary force. Rules of engagement prioritize civilian protection. Warriors study philosophy alongside tactics. The Crystal Garden's representative chimed in. Your soldiers sound more like armed philosophers than traditional warriors. That is our goal, Zhang confirmed. Thinking soldiers make better decisions under stress. They understand why they fight, not just how. They can distinguish between lawful orders and war crimes. They choose restraint when possible. This prevents atrocities and builds peace after conflicts end. The temporal observer rippled with temporal energy. We see futures where Earth leads galactic peacekeeping efforts. Your understanding of conflict makes you ideal mediators. But this requires maintaining your edge without using it. How do you practice for wars you hope never to fight? Zhang smiled at the paradox. Through simulation and study, war games test strategies without casualties. Virtual reality trains soldiers without violence. Historical analysis reveals patterns without bloodshed. We maintain readiness through preparation, not practice. The Drax's security chief growled approval. Wise approach. The best warriors never need to fight. Their reputation prevents conflicts. Others know the cost of challenging them. Exactly, Zhang agreed. Human military strength serves as deterrent. Our known capability prevents tests of resolve. Peace through strength sounds contradictory, but works in practice. Potential enemies choose negotiation over confrontation. The empathic collective glowed with concern, but this requires perfect balance. Too weak invites attack. Too strong creates fear. How do you maintain this equilibrium? Zhang acknowledged the challenge. Through transparency and international cooperation, human militaries conduct open exercises. We share defensive technologies. We invite observers to verify our intentions. Strength without secrecy builds trust. Power with accountability prevents abuse. The ancient collective elder rustled wisely. You have institutionalized the warrior philosopher ideal. Every human soldier embodies your species' duality, capable of violence but choosing peace. This explains your effectiveness as galactic peacekeepers. We offer unique perspective, Zhang elaborated. Peaceful species understand harmony but not conflict. Warrior species understand conflict but struggle with peace. Humans bridge both worlds. We speak both languages. We translate between predators and prey. The assembly murmured with new understanding. Humanity's role in galactic society was becoming clearer. They were not threats but translators. Not warriors but guardians. Their dark past qualified them uniquely for preserving others' bright futures. The Zentari ambassador crystallized thoughtfully. So human fascination with war is actually preparation for peace. You study conflict to prevent it. You maintain strength to avoid using it. All true, John confirmed. Every war museum teaches peace. Every military base promotes stability. Every weapon prevents its own use. Every soldier hopes never to fight. This is the human paradox that confuses other species. We prepare for war precisely because we hate it. As the summit drew to its close, John prepared for his final remarks. The assembled delegates waited expectantly. The day's discussion had transformed suspicion into understanding, fear into appreciation. Now came the crucial moment of synthesis. Distinguished representatives, John began, his voice carrying across the vast hall. Today you asked why humans are fascinated by war. I hope our discussion has revealed the deeper truth. We are not fascinated by war itself, but by preventing it. Our obsession stems from hard-won wisdom that peace requires constant vigilance. He activated the holographic display one last time. It showed Earth from space, blue and peaceful. Our planet bears invisible scars from centuries of conflict. Every human carries genetic memory of violence, but we have chosen to transform this burden into responsibility. We study war so others need not learn its lessons firsthand. The Hive Queen spoke with unified voice. Your species has surprised us, Ambassador Zhang. We expected to find warriors pretending at peace. Instead, we find philosophers who remember being warriors. This is unexpected evolution. Zhang bowed to the Queen. Evolution through choice rather than chance. We decided to be better than our nature. This decision requires daily renewal. Every human wakes up choosing peace over their inherited instincts. This makes our peace deliberate rather than default. The young Proximan delegate stood up. I want to thank humanity. Your soldiers saved my grandmother's ship. Your diplomats prevented war in our sector. Your teachers help our young understand conflict resolution. Now I understand why humans excel at these roles. You have been where we fear to go. Zhang felt moisture in his eyes. Thank you. Your words honor our struggles. Every human who chooses peace validates the sacrifice of those who died in wars. We carry our ancestors' lessons forward. Their suffering purchases your safety. The temporal observer shimmered with prophetic energy. We see clearer futures now. Humanity's role as galactic peacekeepers strengthens in most timelines. Your species becomes the immune system against warfare. Your knowledge protects younger civilizations from ancient mistakes. That is our hope, John replied. We want our dark history to serve bright purposes. Every human war memorial stands as a warning beacon. Every military academy teaches restraint alongside strategy. Every diplomatic protocol reflects blood-bought wisdom. We transform our worst experiences into everyone's best practices. The Voidwalker drifted forward for the first time. We misjudged humanity. Your fascination with war masked deeper fascination with peace. You collect weapons in museums to keep them from battlefields. You tell war stories to prevent new ones. You honor warriors to avoid creating more. Everything reversed from surface appearance. Zhang smiled sadly. Surface appearances deceive even us sometimes. Humans must constantly remind ourselves why we choose peace. Without our museums and memorials, we might forget the cost of conflict. Without our stories and ceremonies, we might romanticize our violent past. These reminders keep us honest about our nature. The Crystal Garden's representative sang a harmonic conclusion. Humanity transformed weakness into wisdom. You studied your failures until they became teachings. You examined your violence until it revealed peace. This alchemy amazes us, darkness becoming light through understanding. Not alchemy, but hard work, Zhang corrected gently. Each generation must learn these lessons fresh. Education never ends. Vigilance never relaxes. Peace requires more effort than war. That is why we seem obsessed with conflict. We are actually obsessed with preventing it. The ancient collective elder moved forward one final time. Ambassador Zhang, you have answered our questions completely. Humanity's fascination with war is really dedication to peace. Your species guards against its own nature. This makes you valuable beyond measure to peaceful civilizations. We need your darkness to protect our light. Zhang felt the weight of responsibility. We accept this role humbly. Human peacekeepers will stand between conflict and harmony. Human diplomats will translate between predator and prey mindsets. Human teachers will share our blood-bought wisdom. But remember, we do this because we know the alternative. We have seen where violence leads. We refuse to go there again. The Zentari ambassador rose to deliver the session's formal conclusion. This summit has achieved more than expected. We convened to discuss trade routes but discovered something greater. Humanity's tragic past offers hope for everyone's peaceful future. Your fascination with war provides tools for lasting peace. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity's unique contribution to collective security. Applause filled the hall in various forms. Some species clapped, others hummed, several generated light patterns. Zhang stood quietly, accepting the acknowledgement while remembering its cost. Every human conflict, every fallen soldier, every destroyed city had led to this moment. Their suffering now protected entire civilizations from similar fates. As delegates departed, many approached Zhang personally. They expressed gratitude, offered alliance, shared understanding. The young Proximan gave him a traditional blessing from her world. The Hive Queen touched his mind briefly, sharing collective appreciation. The temporal observer whispered of bright futures made possible by dark pasts. Zhang remained in the empty hall after everyone left. He stared at the stars through the vast viewport. Somewhere among those points of light, Earth spun on its axis. Billions of humans went about their daily lives, most never thinking about war. That blessed ignorance was what every memorial protected. That precious peace was what every museum preserved. Humanity would continue its eternal vigilance. They would study war to prevent it. They would remember violence to avoid it. They would fascinate themselves with conflict to maintain peace. This was their burden and their gift to the galaxy. The warriors who chose philosophy, the predators who became protectors, the students of war who graduated as teachers of peace. Zhang touched his hand to the viewport in salute to distant Earth. Tomorrow he would return to his diplomatic duties. But tonight, he honored every human who had died to purchase the peace that now protected dozens of species across the galaxy. Their fascination with war had indeed become their greatest tool for peace.